A few months ago, I decided to do something I've wanted to do for quite a long time. Learn game development. After just a few days, I finished a tutorial, but I lost interest very quickly. So, during the winter break, I went back and I figured I literally don't do anything but watch YouTube. So I tried again, followed a tutorial, and made this little Flappy Bird game. It was pretty simple, and since I had tried making some other games before, I found it pretty easy because I already knew a fair amount of Unity and C#. So, around a week into January, I decided I would go into grind, and instead of giving up on bigger tasks, I started to do a little bit of smaller tasks to build my way up the ladder. Since I quit after following a tutorial last time, I never actually made that much progress in learning, so aside from familiarizing myself with the basics of C# and the Unity UI, I wouldn't really consider that part of my journey. But, it's February now, so here we are. This is the progress I made in my first actual month learning Unity. As of now, every time I've made something, I've went for fun, long projects, but I never really thought to just ease it down a little bit. So in the first hour or two, I went ahead and started making a copy of Pong. And after a little bit of making sprites, I finished this game and this was the result. But I didn't really learn anything new, so just like I did before, I stopped following tutorials, but instead went after something that I knew was actually simple and that I could actually figure out by myself. But the thing is, I didn't really know what I was going to make yet, so I went on Cool Math Games looking for a basic game I could make, and then I realized that the world's hardest game existed. It was the perfect game that I could make because it had every single mechanic I needed to learn Unity. Player movement, obstacles, death logic, and it was pretty basic. Since I had the idea now, I decided to make the sprites for the player, level, background, checkpoint, obstacles, and coins. After making the sprites, I imported them and started to get pretty excited. This was going to be the first task that I could actually figure out without searching up a tutorial every 5 minutes. In fact, at the end of this whole thing, I only ended up using around 3 tutorials for very small features, all of which I can now probably figure out by myself. I started my world's hardest game copy by figuring out player movement and wall collisions, which I just used basic top-down movement from a Brachy's tutorial and basic collisions. After that, I spent a solid hour or two figuring out how to make obstacles move, in which I gave up and just stole the pipe movement script from my Flappy Bird game. I wasn't sure how to make it move between 2 spots, so initially I just hard-coded it to check for the Y value and a boolean to check if it was moving up or down. I then turned the obstacles into triggers to make the player literally just destroy itself, but that was no fun, so I animated it to disappear and reappear, toggle movement on and off, and then I teleported it back to the start. I finished what I needed for the first level, so I decided to do a little bit of modifying to it and ended up doing a timing rather than a maneuvering level. This level wasn't that unique, but I made it just so that I could test my checkpoint system. But here's the problem. I didn't have a checkpoint system and I didn't know how to make one. So I followed another tutorial, and after that I was ready to move on to level 3. For level 3 I only needed to add 3 more features: rotating obstacles, coins, and the ability to transfer between levels. But before I started constructing any of these features, I added the mockery text that appears before the next level. If you've ever played the world's hardest game before, you know that before you enter the next level, there's some text on screen mocking the player, so I decided to add that. It was pretty easy to implement, but not gonna lie, I did spend a solid 20 minutes laughing and realizing the dumb stuff I could do. For the first one that actually appeared on screen, I decided to just ask my friend to send me something. But I got that out of the way, and now it was time to start working on the next level. Figuring out how to make the obstacles rotate was pretty easy to do. After that, I also changed the scuffed obstacle movement script that I made, and ended up just stealing a tutorial for moving platforms and modifying it to fit my game. But what I was more worried about was to make the coins. It was the last mechanic I had to make, but I didn't really know what to do, so I spent a solid 30 minutes of twisting my brain cells and broke it down into a process that's probably could have been done much better, but since I'm beginning, you're just gonna have to deal with it and move on. The first thing I did was turn the coins into triggers and then make the players destroy any coins that they interacted with. I put each coin under an empty parent, and each of these coins were turned into prefabs. I connected the player script to each empty parent so that I could check when the player dies or uses a checkpoint. Each coin parent would now instantiate new coins in the same spot if the player died, obviously checking if they already have a coin child. Every coin parent would also delete itself if the player reached a checkpoint and they had no coin children. After I finished implementing all of that, the coin system worked flawlessly. The only thing I had to do now to finish off all the mechanics was put each coin parent under one parent, and make the level end script check if all coin parents were deleted before moving on to the next level. And just like that, I had finished every required mechanic I needed for this game. I worked on 2 more levels after that, but I was running out of ideas, so I just decided to make the 4th one lost. I really like making the 5th one though, because it makes use of moving faster diagonally, which you must do to get each coin. Otherwise, you wouldn't make it in time and you would just die. I then added text for finishing the game and opening the game, so here's the full result. Now at the start of February, I plan to tweak this game before I start a new project, which will likely be a basic platformer or simple 3D game. Now I have a lot of things to add and fix to the game, but here are a few of the main ones. I'm going to add a start menu and a level select option, partially because you just dive into the game straight away, and also every single game has those, so it just makes sense to add. I also want to add any sort of music in the background, but I personally don't listen to music myself, but I've been called crazy, so I'm just going to add it for everyone. I might also add save data to see which levels you've beaten, and I don't really think it's necessary to add this to the game, but I think it's best I learn it as early as possible. And the last thing I'd like to fix is this simple bug where if you collect the last coins, you don't go to the next level. But that's because the parents don't get deleted until you go into the checkpoint, which is in the exact same spot as the end trigger. So you have to exit the end trigger and then go back inside. But with a boolean variable, it should be pretty easy to fix. Anyway, I don't have much else to say as I continue the rest of this gameplay, so I'm just gonna leave the video as it is and you can watch the rest.